Hey everyone, ready for today's deep dive? We're heading to a place I bet you all know pretty well, but it can be, well, a little overwhelming sometimes. The supermarket.
Oh, yes. The
Oh.
supermarket. It's like a little world all its own, isn't it?
It is, and today we're joining Yasmin on her first solo trip to the supermarket in a new English-speaking country.
Wow, that's got to be both exciting and a little scary.
Absolutely, especially since we've got two different versions of Yasmin's story to unpack.
Two versions. That's interesting.
Yeah. Each one gives us a slightly different take on this pretty universal experience. You know that feeling when you walk into a huge supermarket and you're just like, where do I even start?
Oh, yeah, totally. It's almost too much to take in.
Right. In one version, Yasmin actually whispers that to herself.
I think we've all been there.
Oh, for sure. All the choices, the brands you've never heard of, and don't even get me started on the smells.
Especially in the seafood section.
Oh, yeah. Haha. But here's the thing that I find so interesting. Yasmin doesn't let that overwhelmed feeling stop her.
So what does she do?
She takes a deep breath and she does something super simple but powerful. She asks for help.
You know, you're right. We often forget how helpful just asking a question can be.
Especially in a brand new place like a supermarket. In both versions of the story, Yasmin uses phrases like, I'm looking for, or do you have, and where can I find?
Smart.
Right, she's not shy about going up to the staff and asking for what she needs. And, it not only helps her actually find the things on her list, but it also seems like it really boosts her confidence in speaking English.
It's like she's learning by doing, linguists call it task-based language learning.
I love that. So it's not about memorizing flashcards. It's about actually using the language to get things done.
Exactly.
And speaking of getting things done, I noticed that Yasmin doesn't just take whatever's handed to her. Like when she's buying bread, she asks for sliced bread, or she chooses the organic spinach.
It shows she's really paying attention and making choices that fit what she wants, right?
Totally. And it makes you wonder if maybe those choices are connected to her culture.
Like maybe organic produce is more common where she comes from, or maybe certain foods have a special meaning in her culture or religion.
Oh, that's a really good point. So food can actually tell us a lot about someone's background and beliefs.
Absolutely. It's a window into their world.
Which makes you realize that Yasmin isn't just learning English, she's learning a whole new set of rules about food and what it means in this new culture.
And that can be tricky sometimes.
For sure. It reminds me of that time we were traveling and we accidentally ordered, well, let's just say it wasn't what we were expecting.
Oh, don't remind me. That was hilarious, though.
It was. But it just goes to show that even something as simple as ordering food can be a cultural adventure.
Definitely. And for Yasmin, her trip to the supermarket is a big cultural lesson.
It is. In one version, she sees a family speaking a language she doesn't understand, and she thinks about how diverse her new neighborhood is.
The supermarket is like a little snapshot of the whole society, isn't it?
You see all sorts of people and hear different languages, and it's a reminder that everyone's got their own story. It's fascinating.
It is. And speaking of stories, we can't forget the ultimate supermarket challenge, the checkout.
Ah, yes, the moment of truth.
Right. In both versions of the story, this is where Yasmin faces those classic questions like, do you have a loyalty card?
Mhm.
Or would you like your receipt?
Those little interactions can be nerve-wracking, even for people who've lived here forever.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But in one version, Yasmin confidently asks, can I pay with a card?
Nice. It's like a small victory.
It is. It shows how comfortable she's becoming with the language and how she's figuring out how to handle everyday situations.
It's like leveling up in real life.
Exactly. And you can tell that Yasmin feels good about it.
Mhm.
In both stories, she ends her shopping trip with a sense of pride like, I did it.
That feeling of accomplishment is so important.
It is. It proves to yourself that you can adapt and handle new things, even when they seem a little scary at first.
It's a reminder that we're all capable of more than we think.
Absolutely. And what's even more impressive is that Yasmin did this all on her own. No guidebook, no translator, just figuring it out as she went.
That takes a lot of courage.
It does. It shows how resilient she is
Yeah.
and how willing she is to step outside of her comfort zone.
And I think that's something we can all learn from.
I agree. Yasmin's story reminds us that growth often happens when we embrace the unknown.
That's so true. It's those moments of, I did it no matter how small they seem, that really build our confidence.
They show us what we're capable of.
So what do you say we dig a little deeper into some of the cultural insights in Yasmin's story?
Oh, I'm definitely up for that. I'm curious to hear what stood out to you.
Well, one thing that really struck me was how Yasmin interacts with the cashier. In one version, the cashier actually goes beyond just like the usual checkout routine.
Oh, you mean like asking, Do you need help with your bags?
Yeah, and they even chat a little bit, like asking Yasmin about her day and saying, "Welcome to the neighborhood."
Oh, that's nice. It's like they're making an effort to be friendly.
It is, and I feel like that tells us something about the culture Yasmin is now living in. It seems like people value those little connections even with strangers.
It's like what we call phatic communication, those small exchanges that help us build relationships.
It's true, we do it all the time without even realizing it, like nodding at someone in the elevator or saying thank you when someone holds the door open.
Right. Those tiny interactions actually keep things running smoothly in society.
It's like the social glue that holds everything together.
And for someone like Yasmin, who's in a new country and might be feeling a bit lonely, those little acts of kindness can make a big difference.
For sure. It shows her that she's not just a customer, she's part of the community.
And that can be really reassuring, especially when you're still getting used to a new language.
Totally. Sometimes a smile or a friendly tone of voice can communicate more than words.
Absolutely. Nonverbal communication is so powerful.
It really is. It helps to build trust and understanding across cultures. Although I wonder if those nonverbal cues can be interpreted differently in different cultures.
Oh, definitely. Like eye contact, for example.
Hmm.
In some cultures, it's a sign of respect, but in others, it can come across as aggressive.
Wow, that's interesting. So even simple things like nodding or shaking your head can have different meanings depending on where you are.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to pay attention to those cultural differences.
Especially for someone like Yasmin who's still figuring things out.
It's not just about speaking the language, it's about understanding the unspoken rules of communication.
So you need to develop what they call cultural intelligence.
Exactly. It's about being able to read between the lines and pick up on those subtle cues.
So even a trip to the supermarket can be a learning
Oh,
experience.
absolutely. It's a microcosm of the larger culture.
And it's full of those aha moments, like when Yasmin realizes that everyone is just trying to get through their day just like her.
Those moments are so valuable because they help us connect with others and see the world from a different perspective.
Speaking of connecting with others in different perspectives, let's go back to Yasmin's choice of organic spinach.
Oh, yeah. You were wondering if that might have something to do with our culture.
I was. What if in Yasmin's culture, there's a big emphasis on fresh local food?
Maybe organic farming is more common where she comes from, or maybe there's a tradition of growing your own vegetables.
So choosing that organic spinach could be her way of holding on to her food traditions.
Like a little taste of home.
I like that. It shows how food can be a really powerful expression of who we are.
And it also makes you think about how challenging it must be to navigate those choices in a new place.
Imagine trying to find familiar ingredients or read labels in a language you don't fully understand.
It's like a whole new level of grocery shopping,
And then there's adapting recipes, figuring out different cooking techniques.
like a culinary adventure,
It is, and sometimes those adventures lead to amazing discoveries.
like new flavors and new ways of cooking that you never would have tried before.
It's true. Food can be a bridge between cultures.
And that's what I love about Yasmin's story. It's not just about going to the supermarket, it's about the bigger journey of adapting to a new life.
It's about those small moments of triumph and those unexpected encounters that change how we see the world.
And sometimes those moments happen in the most ordinary places, like the aisles of a supermarket,
It's a good reminder that there's always something new to learn and discover.
even in a place we think we know so well.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
I hope they'll be inspired by Yasmin's willingness to step outside of her comfort zone and see challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. And I hope they'll be encouraged to celebrate those small wins, like Yasmin confidently asking, "Can I pay with a card?"
Those little moments can make a big difference. And before we go, I have a little challenge for our listeners.
Ooh, I like a challenge.
Next time you're out and about, whether it's at the grocery store or the farmer's market, or even just walking down the street, try to see things through Yasmin's eyes.
Like a newcomer.
Exactly. Be curious. Notice the details. What are the sights and sounds and smells that make this place special?
Yeah. What are the things that you normally wouldn't even think about?
Right. And pay attention to the people around you. How do they interact with each other? What can you learn about their culture from those little moments?
Sometimes we think we need to travel far away to experience new things. But there are so many hidden gems right here in our own backyards.
So true. It's all about shifting our perspective, seeing the familiar with fresh eyes.
And who knows, you might even strike up a conversation with someone you've never met before.
You might learn something new or discover a hidden talent. Or maybe you'll just gain a new appreciation for the diversity of your community.
And that, I think, is the heart of Yasmin's story. It's about embracing the unexpected and finding those little moments of connection.
Even in the most ordinary places. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those grocery bags full of interesting discoveries.
And maybe a few treats, too.
Always.